Hello again. So in this video we'll be talking about continue our login page. All right, so if you haven't seen other ones, please just go back to the YouTube channel and go through the series. You'll see other videos, so be on the same page. All right, so we'll continue from where we stopped last time. Okay, so what I'm going to do in our login page, I'm going to cut from here. Then I'll create a new folder under the source. I'll just create a new folder for our inputs. I'll call it inputs. Okay, so inside the inputs, so we'll have some inputs for our login and our register. So I'll just create those pages differently. All right. So inside the input, I will create another folder called login inputs. So I'm going to create another one still inside the inputs, and then we'll call it register input. So register inputs. Then right inside the login, I will create a file. I will call it index.js. Then I'll create a CSS file. I'll call this style.css. And I'm going to save. So right here, this is where I'll create our login. So inside the login.js, I'm going to create a stateless functional component. So I will call it login input. All right, so in the div, in the return, I'm just going to return a div that says, I'll give it a class name of login input. Okay, say login input. All right, so I'll just return login. All right, so in our login.js, we're going to pass that here. So I'll just call it, say login input here. Okay, so we'll pass it as a component. All right, so it's being imputed here for us. All right, so I'm just going to save and see if we get that. All right, so it's here right now. So I'm going to style that. So in the style.css, so I'm just going to call it here in the this component. So I will say import style.css. Right, so we'll save. So right here we're going to style that. So I will say dot input component, login component rather, login input. And I'll give it a position of relative. I'll give it a width of 320 pixels, and display will be flex direction will be column, align items center. So right now I'm going to change the content. So I'll remove this login, and I'll add an input. So here, this is where we're passing our inputs. Okay, so we are passing our input. So we just have one input. I'm going to remove this. We just have this way. All right, so in our CSS, come back to our CSS. This is login input. I think I made a mistake there. So we're going to have our login input, then passing the inputs. So I'll give it outline to be none, and the border of 1 pixel solid, and then the color be BG3rd. I will give it a width of 100%, and then a height of 50 pixels. I'll give it a font size of 17 pixels. I'll give it a padding left of 10 pixels, and I'll give it a margin bottom of 10 pixels, and the color will be color primary. Okay, so I'm going to press Ctrl B to hide this. All right, so in our index.js we have just this input. All right, so next thing we are going to pass in is the attributes. All right, so where we have the type here to be test. All right, and then we have the placeholder. All right, so say enter email or phone number. All right, so we have that here. So but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to pass it as a prop. All right, so I'll pass it as a prop in the component I have in my login.js. So right here, what I'm going to do, I want to pass that as a prop here. So I will say placeholder, and I'll pass it as a prop here. I will say enter email or phone number. Okay, so right here, all we need to do, since we pass it as a prop, so we're going to explicitly pass it here. So I can just say props.placeholder, but I will just destructure it here and I will just say placeholder. All right, and in here I will just say placeholder, then I will pass here placeholder. All right, you see it has been shown here for us. All right, so I'm going to put this into two. So have the email and then the password. So this input to serve for both the email and the password. So right here in our login, I'll duplicate this in this I will duplicate this our login input into two, right? So it will be, I'll have it into two, and here will be for password. So here will be password. So next thing we'll be having here is our type. So passing type here. Type here will be tests, and then the name will be email. Right, for here the type will be password, and then the name will be password. All right, so if I come here and type password, you just seen it as a string. So we are going to do it in a way that is going to be seen like a password. All right, so what we are going to do, come back to our index.js under our login inputs. So since we've passed in other values inside this our login component, so to be able to grab that, to get our fields, all right, we'll pass them as props here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, so we're just going to spread them as props. So we'll spread them as props. So I'm going to spread them as props. All right, in here. So for me to grab other attributes I have in my login input, so I'm just going to say const. So const field. Then I'll pass in the meta. All will be from the use field from formik, and then we'll pass in prop. So I'm going to import this up here. So I will say import use field. So it will be from formik. So we're going to grab the field of the attributes we gave here, the type and the name for our email and our password. Okay, so we use this use field to get them by props. So inside this input tag, I'm going to have type. So I will say type will be equal to, and then I'll pass in the field.type. Okay, so the next one will be the name. So have the name, so it will be field.name, and I'm going to spread all the feed. Okay, so I'll spread all the fields, all the inputs that I'll be getting from our feed. We're going to spread all of them, and then we're also going to spread the prop. All right, since we imported these twice, I'm going to delete one. All right, okay, so right now, so since we passed them as props, the way, all right, say prop is not defined. All right, see prop is not defined here. Okay, so it is props, not prop. That's props. Right, so since we pass the fields from here, so we are going to get it directly in our login field. So what we do is from here, we pass in the initial values, we pass in the email, and then we pass in the password, and then we'll give it in pass it on empty strings. Okay, so initially it will be empty. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to say on submit. Okay, and submit will be equal to passing values. So console log, say form submitted with values. Submitted with values. All right, so and then we'll pass in the values. So what we'll do, we'll pass it as an unchange in our input, our login input component right here. So pass that as an unchange here in both places. So what we'll do, we'll say unchange will be equal to, so passing an event. So I'll call it handle login. So I'll call it handle login, and then I'll pass in the E, which is the event. So right here, we're going to create this login function up here. So right here, so I'm just going to say pass in the values, and then the unchain the handle login here. So I'm going to console the value. So console the value size here. So I'm going to console.log, say current value, then I'll spread the values. So come here, spread the values. I'll put in a bracket. So I'll spread the values, and then we see e.target e.target.name, and then we pass in the e.target.value, target.value. All right, so we'll save. Okay, so if I enter any value right here in our, so let me just refresh. All right, so we're having an error here saying handle login is not a function. Okay, so we're going to change this handle login to change it to handle change. Do the same thing here, change it to handle change. Right, so you change the function up here. All right, so handle change. Okay, so I'm going to refresh here, and then let me enter a value. So you can see if I enter a value, it automatically consoles for us. So this is just how you kind of link your values in your form field. Okay, link your inputs to your form field. So any value I enter, see it automatically reflects in our console. So in the next video, we'll continue and we'll validate our form field with EOP. Hello everyone, exciting news. Electric Design Nigeria is launching a comprehensive full stack web application training that covers every recent technology used in building a full stack web application. So whether you're just starting out or looking to expand your knowledge, this training has got you covered. I'll be dropping the link to the training that you fill out in the description below. So just click on the link and register, and we'll get back to you. See you in the training. Bye.